Hi everyone, in today's tutorial I want to show you how we can make this extruded sphere using pops in TouchDesigner, and I want to show you how we can also achieve this chromy texture that we will achieve using PBR and environment map. So let's begin. As usual, we can start with a blank new project. I just brought up my environment map. And just a small trick, what I use to create my environment map, I use ChatGPT, but you can use any AI that generate an image. So I just prompt like ChatGPT, give me an environment map with like details. For example, you can say for a glassy texture and it works pretty well. Before we start creating the network, I will have this project file in my Patreon for those who don't want to follow along. We will start by making the pop network. Let's start with sphere, pop. Let's change the uniform scale to 6 and the frequency to 2. The next thing we're going to bring is an extrude up that will create the extruded face. So we have to change the axis to normal. And then when we change the distance, we're going to see the extruded part. So now it doesn't go below 0, but you can use minus. For example, you can use -1 and then it would extrude inside. To create the rounded edges of the extrude, we're going to use a subdivide. And then you can see it's not really smooth, but you can increase the depth to have a smoother line. After that, we need to recreate the normals. And then the last thing for the pop network is a transform, because we're just going to add some rotation. So in the rotate Z, I'm going to write ABS time.second times 360 times 0.1. And then we can just copy and paste for the Y, and then I'm just going to make it a bit slower for the Y. 0.5 or 0.1, get slower. And now I use an LFO just to change the distance of the extrude. You can bring a LFO up, and the LFO already goes from -1 to 1. We can directly drag it onto the distance and can reduce the frequency to something like 0.1 so it goes slower. And if this is too heavy for your GPU, because sometimes my frame rates would be dropping, you can just go in the sphere and then reduce the frequency to something like 1. And then it's not really a sphere, but it has similarly the same result. Next, we're going to do the render network. Right click on the transform, and then in the comp, bring a Gion. Bring a camera and environment light. And I will add 2 other lights. Next thing is going to be the render top. We will change the pixel format to 16-bit float, and then resolution 80 by 1080. Let's attach it to a null, then make the viewer active so we can see. Now the camera is a bit too close, so maybe let's move it to 17, 15, maybe 20. Okay. For the material, I'm gonna add a PBR. And then we're gonna drag the environment map on the environment light. For the PBR, we're gonna reduce the roughness. I will go with 1.6, but you can adjust this to your liking. Also the metallic, if you prefer to be less metallic, you can change it. Now I want to add more colors to the PBR. So what I'm going to do is go into the rim, and then I'm going to enable the rim color. And what the rim will do is it's gonna make the edge of the shape or the edge of the reflection to have another color. So for example, if I choose like red, you're gonna see all the edge that it's the light is gonna be the other color. I chose a specific color, so I'm just gonna write it down, but you can choose any color. So the color I chose was red. That was 18.18, then 0.2, then 0.35. So it's kind of a purple color. And the width, I chose 1, and then for the strength, I went with 2, so it's a bit stronger. You can see a little bit of purple on the reflection. We're going to change the light a bit so we have also different colors in the light. For example, the first light, I'm going to go with pinkish orangey color that I want also the light. And I will dim it down a little bit. And I will choose a cone. Angle will be 218, delta will be 57. And then I will right click on it and view. And I will just move it like the way I think it reflects like I want. So you can play with that. And for the second light, it will be the shadow, but I'm just going to reduce it for now. And we're going to change it later. For the drop shadow, we have to create a background. Let's create a plain pop. And put the uniform scale to 10, size to, doesn't matter, we just want it to be big. Then grab another geo. Let's grab the PBR map. Here, reduce the roughness a bit too, so we can also reduce a bit the base background if you think it's too light. Now if we go in the second light, we're gonna enable the soft shadows. And we can change the shadow resolution to our resolution. Okay, and then we can view it also. So we can see the shadow. Okay, now you can see a faint shadow here. So maybe we can increase the light. And I like the soft shadow, but I feel like the softness is not enough for me. So usually what I do is either I create another render or you can create a render pass. In the render pass, you have to reference your first box here. And then you have to select what you want to render for the geo and the light. So I'm gonna select the geo 2, drag it here, and then the light 2. And after that, we have to enable the clear depth buffer. Now we only have the shadow. And you can connect it to a blur. And then increase the filter size so it can be a blurry shadow. And then use an add, connect the two. Now it's more blurry, and you can increase the reshrink. Another thing we can do to have more depth in the shape is after the first render, we can connect SSAO. And then we have to change the SSAO pass resolution to full. And then if you want to see the contrast, you can enable this like combined with color. So now you don't see anything because there's no contrast. But if I increase the radius to something like 4, you can see a little bit of contrast. And then sorry, I want to have more contrast. I'm going to use 3 to have like the border here and the inside shape. And you can play with the contrast here, but like just be careful if you have too much contrast, then it's gonna be a bit blurry around the shape. So usually I use quite small contrast, but it makes a little bit of difference. We can also add some blur in around the shape, so it gives us a more finished visual. So you can grab a ramp and then connect it to the first input here, and in the output we're gonna use the set resolution only, and we're gonna use circular. For the face we want to have something like 0.1, and we're gonna change the period to 4.3, and the extend left is gonna be hold. So we're gonna use luma blur to blur around the values that are white or less dark. So let's bring a luma blur and connect the first input here, second input, and then for the white value we want to have 0, and the black value we want to have 1, and then we can increase the filter size, but that's a bit too much, so maybe something like 7. Now we can see that around the circle is a little bit blurry, and in the center it's less blurry. And then the last thing we can do is add a bloom, so the edge that have some lighting are a little bit blooming. The pre-back level, reduce it to 0, and then the min bloom radius also to 0, and reduce the bloom dot. We have something like 0.1. So that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.